Man, I love that intro music. It's so good. So, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I see people are still rolling in. I'm super excited for this one because it's like the one subject matter that we've covered that I literally don't know a single thing about. I'm 100, not even 100% sure what we're talking about. So it's gonna be cool to learn something that I don't know anything about, and hopefully you guys are excited too. So I think what we're doing is like cleaning supplies, bath bombs, or I don't know, scrub, exfoliant. I don't know. Again, I don't know what we're talking about, but it's going to be fun. And we have a really special guest who is very excited to help y'all do some stuff on your own and save some money. So I'll let her introduce herself.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Great to see everybody coming in. So yeah, I really started getting into making a lot of my own products. So mostly skincare and stuff kind of after I went to Aesop and saw that like my boss's hand soap that was ordinary except for essential oils was $50. So out of that spite, I really ended up sticking with it. Just because of how much better quality ingredients you can get, how much more concentrated everything is, you know, what's actually in them. And yeah, just I feel like, especially with the random shortages in products we've had in the last year, it's really easy to be able to customize anything. So that's kind of where I come at it from. And yeah, really loving the way that this series has such a big focus on what's actually available to you and using that instead of, you know, having to go out and buy something.
Yeah, it's been fun. In terms of what we're talking about, the closest I've gotten to doing any of these things is like putting some essential oil on like a wool ball for the dryer. And like
Nice. That
that's
never
about it's about all I got.
got you. Yeah, so I'm gonna start out with a few things that I don't know if you're like pretty up on crafting and DIY stuff might be like you've been there before. And yeah, just a couple basics to kind of start off. But yeah, so for this one, again, like using stuff you already have is a big emphasis. And yeah, I'll be doing like hand sanitizers, foaming soaps, bar soap if you're like really committed, and then stuff like deodorant. And I'll be talking a little bit about cosmetics and that sort of thing. Definitely let me in the chat like what you're interested in hearing about. Because I can speak to a lot, but you know, if everybody here is not that into making their own mascara, I won't bring it up. But yeah, that one's actually easier than soap. So everything's easier than soap.
Yeah, I gotta say, I tried once. My wife had this soap making kit, and I was like, "Oh, you know what? We have the kit. I'll try to learn it, figure it out." And the kit was just like such a disappointment because it was literally just like,
Mm,
"Here's this bar of like whatever it is, glycerin or whatever they use," and it was like, "Here's some essential oils. Like, melt it, add the oils, and then let it harden back up in a different shape." And that was it. I'm like, "That's not making soap." It's not
yeah,
at all what I thought that would be.
yeah. There's definitely with soap making, the people who don't want to use lye, you end up more having to use the like pre-made block type things. And there's all kind of like more sulfate-free ones and all that. But yeah, I do have a recipe for lye soap, like if you want to get real into it. But yeah, so I'm trying to have two levels of the if you have limited space, time, energy, because I totally like if I had like several children, I would not be making like face oils for myself every day. So like
Yeah.
definitely it depends what's available to you, how much space and time you have. Yeah. So yeah, definitely gonna start off with more essentials, and then if there's more stuff people are curious about, pop it in the chat. And yeah, I do have a link for all the recipes that I have today. And then at the bottom, in the spirit of the Skillshare, you're free to put like whatever tips or other recipes you have that you might want people to know. Definitely, I'm in Canada in Toronto, so anything cost wise I talk about will probably be like 30% cheaper in USD. So that's always
That's
good to know.
yeah, it's one thing we get here in America.
Yeah, I'm just gonna chat you the link to it actually.
Yep.
I can't get into it
All
for
right.
whatever reason.
I'm gonna post that
Okay,
right now.
sweet.
I'm gonna toss it up in the Discord for folks that are over there.
Oh, awesome. Thanks so much. So yeah, I there's definitely like in a lot of natural skincare stuff, people using really hard to find, high cost ingredients that just come packaged in a lot of plastic. So I really want to focus on stuff you already have. And unlike so many natural skincare blog posts, they will not end in a doTERRA essential oil sales pitch, I promise. So yeah, like just let me know if you have any questions or yeah, anything you want to get more into. But yeah, so definitely a great place to start when you're thinking about making your own products is what you already have access to. I live in a tiny urban apartment, so I don't have as many like cool sustainable things to access, but definitely if you or a neighbor have like beef tallow, that's great for soap making. Any plant matter you grew, like the stems of herbs that, like have a bit of a scent to them, but they're not really useful for your main production. Oils you pressed, especially like plant matter or anything that comes out of your infusions, because you just have these like lovely oil soaked rose petals that, would be nice in a bath or whatever. So stuff like that is always the best place to start versus kind of just pouring over like every recipe. Yeah, it's especially like a great way to use any oils or spices you have around that aren't exactly like food grade. Not like rancid, but oils and like nuts and stuff seem to go bad pretty quickly. So like ground almond is really like scrubby and gentle. So stuff like that I'm very much into.
Yeah,
Um,
unfortunately for you, you're not near the ocean, or you could get some fresh sea salts.
Yeah, so there's so many things like that that I can't even think of. So definitely looking around your natural environment or what your neighbors have excess of and are just throwing out. Like I'm sure there's so many things you can come up with.
Yeah, I would imagine like things like black walnuts shells you could crush
Yeah.
up pretty good and probably use that in a scrub.
Yeah, walnut is very abrasive, so more like body scrub than face scrub, but yeah, definitely in the vein of that. Body scrubs are so easy for kind of you can toss whatever in. So what I like to do when I do have my remnants or leftovers of whatever doesn't fit in a bottle or kind of scraping out the end of something, I just have like a little tin for body scrub stuff. So that's where I'll put all my leftover like solid oils or remnants or salts or even like, dried tea that's nice or anything like coffee grounds. You can really do a lot. Definitely. If you have like a septic tank, I would be a little bit more careful with what you're putting in there. But yeah, there's really a lot of options for that.
Sure. So someone was asking about deodorant.
Yeah,
So
I
are
actually,
Go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. Yeah, we will be getting into deodorant because I think that's a big one that people are annoyed by the plastic of. I definitely today will not be covering toothpaste or sunscreen. I'm like very pale and have British teeth, so those are things I kind of just have to weigh the costs and benefits of.
Sure.
So there are recipes for that, but not for me today.
Yeah, I've tried one once with the toothpaste at least, and it didn't feel clean after. And that might just be because I'm used to what normal toothpaste feels like after, but it didn't feel clean. So,
Yeah, there's some, yeah, that if you're coming from a low waste, they do have the fluoride in them. And, but yeah, the one that I used had like coconut oil based, and then I got like 14 cavities. So yeah, it's a no for me, but definitely, I think if you just have genetically like better teeth, you could get away with it. That's what I've heard from my dentist who kind of just laughed at my face. That yeah, like some people can do it, but not for me.
yeah, probably the modern diet isn't helping with that.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, just gonna start off with some of the kind of like easiest things that you can do when you don't have like a lot of time or space, and then depending on how much money you have. So overall, I'm sure all of you have heard of Castile soap. That's like the number one kind of multi-purpose. A liter does so much for your life. Like it works as a shampoo for my friends of all hair textures. It's a really good like body, hand soap, dish soap, floors, toilets. They talk about it like I feel like that's a big one.
Yeah, is that do you know what that is? Like what is it what does it come from?
It's, like an olive oil based soap, or like it's usually like an oil base, so it's pretty gentle, and yeah, that one is the base in a lot of like, the foaming hand soap is the best kind of bang for your buck with that one, I find, I'm not sure what the, like, surfactant in it is exactly, it's just, like, not something that I, like, make often, but it's definitely, like I think the Dr. Bronner's one is usually, like, an olive oil base, so, yeah, it's very gentle, definitely, and they do have ones that are essential oil free, if you don't want anything scented. So yeah, the easiest thing you can do for hand soap is in a foaming pump dispenser, the like 2 tablespoons of what you've got in the soap bottle mixed with kind of like 3/4 of a cup or just, like about the rest of the way water and some essential oils if you want to get fancy. That's just like I've saved so much money just from doing that one. So that's probably my favorite. And then, yeah, if you're just trying to have like buy 3 products, I would say baking soda for an abrasive for cleaning, or even using food waste like your coffee grounds, and then just using vinegar as an all purpose cleaner. And then if you're gonna bring in one oil that you just wanna, like, have one container of one oil that you could use for, like, ideally your face, skin, hair, nails, beard, etcetera, I would say probably make it jojoba oil. That one seems to be the best overall choice for face, nails, good for hair, and pretty expensive for, like, a body oil, but, if you're into that, it's very nice. Um, and then so,
Cool.
yeah, getting
So
in. Mhm,
I was gonna say, so when you're talking about like the pump soap,
mhm.
how does that work with like the foaming ones? Like I don't understand. You can use the same soap. Is it the same? Is it just the mechanism that makes it foamy, or
Yeah,
is
so
it?
it basically does that kind of like aggravation of it or agitation. So yeah, like the soap is pretty concentrated, Castile soap anyways. Like I think about a tablespoon is, like great for doing a load of dishes. So yeah, just shaking it up and it kind of foams it. So it's at a dilution that's good enough to wash your hands. Cause yeah, if you use it just out of the bottle, it's almost the consistency of like dish soap or detergent. Um,
Gotcha.
yeah, so
Cool.
that gets you, like, a couple months going, and then, yeah, I use it for basically everything. Definitely the one thing that I bring traveling because it's so useful. You can
Awesome.
also use it as a laundry soap, like, about a half cup in a load, but that is pretty expensive for me, because it's not the cheapest ingredient. But, yeah, so if you wanna get started making stuff, definitely, there's a lot of room to play around and experiment, but for ground rules, anytime you're gonna use citrus, I would be really careful on skincare products just because it's so photosensitive. And again, yeah, like if you're using a lot of oil-based butters and stuff, as luxurious as that looks, it's definitely like a little bit more, like it just attracts the sun to you a little bit more. So yeah, I just want to be super transparent about that. So basically, when you're using an essential oil, because so many of them are from the citrus family or otherwise, definitely check the photosensitivity of whatever you're using.
Yeah,
Um,
and the nice thing is about like citruses, or not necessarily the nice thing, but something that people in colder climates can do is grow things like trifoliate oranges, which are a cold hardy orange. They don't taste like orange, but they're basically like like a lesser quality like lemon.
yeah.
But if you want like a locally sourced citrusy amendment, we'll call it, that would be one way to do it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, we have some people hating on Dr. Bronner's. I get it. Definitely, yeah, like it because it is oil based, sometimes like for some people it's too harsh on their hands and it like makes them break out. And then for someone was saying for hair, it's too much and it left it really greasy. So it really does depend. It's definitely not for everybody. And yeah, if you do have hard water, yeah, it definitely, if you have hard water, I would use distilled water or at least like boiled and cooled. That might help a little bit. Because yeah, on hard water it is a little weird. So yeah, definitely I would in so many of our cities it's like hard water. So definitely if you're showering and it's coming out weird, that might be part of it too. Yeah, my rental is not up on high-tech shower heads. So I hear you. It definitely is not for everybody. But yeah, I end up using if not Dr. Bronner's for hair, I usually will do, like, some kind of bar soap, and, yeah, I do have a bar soap recipe, but again, that one's pretty involved. Oh, okay. So, yeah, if you're trying to get started, um, formulating is the word for kind of, like, making a product and processing it. And then another word you'll hear is usage rate, and that's basically for whatever ingredient you have, the recommended percentage for a skincare formulation because like sea buckthorn oil is super, super, super dark. So even though it's really good for skin and acne, and just even adding like a golden color to something, if you use like 1%, it's basically stains your skin. It's really yellow. So as much as we love her, there's definitely like some ingredients that you do not want to put a lot of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
buckthorn's native, so that's something you could again probably get off of your landscape, even
Mhm.
in northern North America.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that I would love to try growing when I've got some space and time for perennials. Because yeah, this is also a very expensive oil. So if you are using it and pressing it, like that can also be really good as like a cash crop even. And yeah, it is native,
Yeah.
so it's nice.
So do you happen to know if it's the fruit that is pressed or is
Yeah,
it the seeds?
there's actually 2 kinds. So there's this one just says sea buckthorn, but there's the seed and the fruit. And so the fruit is a little bit more fatty, I believe. And yeah, the seed oil is more expensive. But it does vary greatly. Like if you'll get this one's a little bit like reddish. So those ones seem to be more like pure, deeper quality and have a lot more of the fruit. But yeah, it really does depend on so like wherever you get your products from, it'll range greatly. So a lesser quality one would be usually like a more golden color already because it even like a drop of this will kind of make something a golden color. So I would say if it's more yellowy, it's probably diluted or not as pure.
Yes, and also, if you happen to be in the Vermont area, I'm just going to plug this for next
Yeah.
winter for people that are in the area. Ben Falk over at Whole System Farms usually opens up his sea buckthorn patch for
Mm.
people to go pick their own berries because he says that he has way too many. So if you really wanted to try this, you could go visit him and sometime in I think it's usually October, November when they harvest up there. So if it's that expensive and it's something you really want to make, it might be worth the trip, or if you're nearby. And Zach asked what part of the sea buckthorn is the oil extracted from. You said the seed, but also the oil as well. I mean the fruit rather as well.
I believe it's actually just from the seeds, but I know
Okay.
that, like, the fruit oil, like, some people do use, but I believe it's the seed oil that's way more pure, and it's a bit darker. So, yeah, when you see the fruit oil, which is this one, it's definitely, like, a lot darker, actually, so it's that kinda reddish color. So, yeah, if you see fruit oil that's golden, it's probably the seed oil. But yeah, they're both very like distinct visually, but they're nutrient wise. I would say that mostly it's the fruit oil, this one that's better for your skin. Because yeah, it has like a lot more of the threes or sorry, omega sixes, and then the rare one, omega 7, is the one that this one has, which is part of the reason that it's a really good time.
Cool.
So yeah, really good fatty
Not
oil.
not to grill you on sea buckthorn, but here we are.
Yeah, definitely coming into this, I was like, if someone asked me about like every ingredient, I might not, because it's definitely like what you get into using.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for a basic kit, like when you're getting into it, oh, sorry, actually, one more thing. Disclaimers. I don't have a lawyer. So pH is, like hotly debated in skincare. Because like your skin's pH is around like a 5 to 6 generally. Don't quote me on that too hard to the decimal point. But generally, like for skincare products, something a little more acidic, like a 4 to 5 is better. And that does vary a little bit depending on or actually greatly depending on the product. So if you're worried about that, I would look into it, and especially like not making products that are too basic. Can yeah, like just wreak havoc on your skin a bit. But yeah, if you're getting more into like acids and skincare and that very like scientific regimen side of it, I would yeah, definitely look into that a lot. But yeah, for general, when you're using oils and butters, it's not, going to be too much of a problem.
Cool.
So yeah, your basic kit is mostly going to be depending on what you want to make. For cleaning, I'd be into like vinegar, Castile soap, and yeah, having some baking soda around, essential oils if you want them for fragrance, and then vitamin E oil is the ingredient that I really don't like to skip. It's not in a lot of recipes, but it's great. So this one is not a preservative; it's an antioxidant. So again, this one has a really low usage rate, but it's about like 0.3 to 0.5%, usually by weight with oils. So yeah, this is gonna just like help preserve the shelf life of your oils. Everything here doesn't have water to again like inhibit bacteria from growing. So because it's so oil heavy, adding just that bit of vitamin E oil is really great. There's actually two kinds of vitamin E oil. There'll be the one that's like acetate or like the, like topical or in the pills. Don't get that one, buy, like, tocopherol, the ingredient, and, like, not the skincare oil already. Or you could do that, but it'll just be diluted. So definitely, like, buying it as an ingredient. This is, like, 100 grams, and it's lasted me through making hundreds of products. Like, it's very, very good, and it lasts a long time. If you're allergic to vitamin E, you can also use rosemary seed extract, but it costs a bit more. Yeah, so then vitamin E oil, great, gotta have it. Glycerin is useful for like soaps and just adding a little bit of that kind of flow to something. So in the like spray hand sanitizers, which I have a recipe for, the alcohol-based ones, it really works to help like make the alcohol less drying and kind of abrasive almost, like it has a little bit more of a flow to it. So yeah, glycerin's another one that you're really only adding a couple drops to, but it makes a big difference in your product. And then yeah, a mix of whatever your preferred butters and oils are for what you're doing. Um,
Now, are there any like I guess, basic rules in terms of like you're talking about all these different oils
mhm.
about what you can and can't use? Like, does that have to do with like fat content or protein or like anything like that? That might be like you need fruits or whatever you're using. It has to have X amount of fat, X amount of this in order to be something that can be added to a soap without it being like a biological risk because of like
Mhm.
something taking moving in like what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So once you're getting into like I really have recommended oils, but you can definitely like switch out an oil or butter for what you have in stock. But I would definitely double check, like the benefits of it. Again, like how fatty it is, how quickly it goes bad. Because yeah, those are all important considerations. But definitely, it really does vary on the product, and it's mostly about the most common area where it shouldn't be used in an oil, aside from something like sea buckthorn oil where it stains or is just too much on your skin, is really just like the cosmogenic oils, like the ones that will clog your pores. So anything you're using for face or hair is a little bit more tricky. Like coconut oil is pretty hotly debated. I don't use it for that reason. I find that it too thick, ends up drying out my hair. But yeah, down to the fatty structure of it, that's not me, I'm sorry. But yeah, coconut oil, I would say, is more of like a body oil in my humble opinion, but that does vary a lot depending on what people are looking at. Skincare is a mess for that, especially because it's so heavily marketed and, like there's all those kind of angles at it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I've made a lot of oils out of like using coconut oil in particular
Cool.
for like various types of like cannabis type stuff where it's like either for
Yeah.
cooking or for like a salve or something like that. That's about the extent that I've used it. Um,
Mhm.
would you? I don't know if you have any experience or if you feel comfortable talking about working with that kind of a product.
Yeah, definitely. With salves and stuff, I mostly use what I have on hand, like just kind of the highest quality, least irritating ingredients I have. So coconut oil is a great one, especially for cost. Like if you're making a body salve using like rosehip oil, even though it has more vitamins than a lot of other oils, I think it's like vitamin A, maybe. That one is just so expensive for like a body oil, so that's a great one. And then, yeah, apricot oil is another one that's pretty affordable, and is very light on the skin. But again, for cannabis, like coconut oil is so beloved that I feel like it's just very easy to do that for
Probably,
like
yeah.
body,
I
but not face.
Yeah, I would like to try using other oils. Pressing more oil is something
Oh,
I'm looking forward
cool.
into doing as my nut trees start producing more, like hickory oil, things like that, where you can like start try to utilizing the ingredients in a different way. But
Mhm.
that's a long ways off at this point.
Yeah, so yeah, that's so labor intensive, but I love it. That would just be so cool. I buy mine all from, like, a refillable store near me. It's, like, the 3rd closest one because it's the more expensive or, like, the cheaper one. So with oils for salves, it really ends up depending on, like, the consistency of the oil, versus if it's a butter, like, how it is at room temperature. So, yeah, my recipes, especially, like, the deodorant, if you're in a warmer climate or a colder climate, your room temperature might be different, so definitely you might wanna, like, play around with it, and the thing with making these products is you can basically always heat it up again and kinda go back.
Yeah. So what's the best oil for warm climates then? Is it coconut oil?
Mm, I it depends on, like, what you want it for, like,
I
if
was
you
thinking more
want
about, like, the firmness.
Oh, okay,
Is
yeah, I would say for warmer climates, maybe, like, a shea butter because it seems to hold up a bit more, like, coconut goes liquid pretty quickly. I think shea butter has a slightly higher, melting point. But yeah, so that's a great one to use. Definitely, yeah, like whatever is accessible to you because not every store is going to have like every single oil. But yeah, so a great moving away from oils for just a second because this is
sure.
very oil heavy.
Yeah, once you start talking about things that come from plants, I get sucked in.
Right? I love it. No, that's so exciting to me. Yeah, having to that's another thing that I love about making this stuff because I'm so disconnected from the actual ingredients. It's really cool for me to be like, "Oh, hemp oil's dark. Cool." So yeah, that's like a big deal for me, but definitely for somebody who actually makes the raw material is really cool. Yeah, definitely drawing off of your like making vinegar that's a great all-purpose cleaner, as I'm sure a lot of you know. But yeah, I've been getting more into infusing it with plant matter. So basically, citrus peels are a really big one, but also rosemary, star anise, and pine needle tips is like my favorite one.
Really?
And
Does it
those,
co bring out a lot of the pine smell?
yeah, so it just makes vinegar less bad to use, just because if something smells terrible, you're probably not going to want to use it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely citrus is the one that I find masks it the most, but rosemary and pine needles are also up there. And for that,
Mhm.
you're really just placing your plant matter in a jar with a not metal lid so it doesn't rust. And then for about a week, kind of just shake it every day. If you're using the woodier or harder, like a star anise, you'd probably want to let it sit for a little bit more. And then, yeah, depending on how strong your vinegar is, I would infuse it with, if it's the cleaning strength, up to like 50% water. And any of the recipes I'm talking about are in that Google Docs. You don't have to be like running to write it down. But yeah, so that's the vinegar all-purpose cleaner and like making your own hand sanitizer with the water, glycerin, alcohol are like really easy, kind of just starter ones that really don't take up a lot of your time, energy, resources. So those are some of my faves. And then yeah, for the deodorant cream that somebody mentioned, my recipe is modeled really closely after that routine brand of the solid deodorant, which for some reason is like $30 for 2 ounces. Yeah,
Because people will
beeswax is
pay
a great
for it.
one. Exactly, yeah, so somebody mentioned beeswax is a great thing to hold together, and yeah, it is. I love using beeswax, especially if you have a product that's, like, almost the firmness that you want, just, like, a couple shreds really will get it together. And yeah, it's a good protective layer as well, for, yeah, like, kind of salves and that kinda thing. I like adding a little bit of beeswax for that too. Big fan. So yeah, the deodorant cream is has a bit of starches, the arrowroot starch. Again, you can probably use whatever, even potato starch, like whatever's more accessible to you. Maybe not potato, but corn would probably work. And then the deodorant one, there's some baking soda in it. And for some people, baking soda is too abrasive on their skin, especially like under the arms. So you can kind of play again, like you have the option of customizing. So you can really play with whatever ratio works for you. They have a formula that doesn't have it, and then this one does have some. So you can either add more starch to make up for that. But yeah, definitely. The deodorant is basically just like your starches, so the baking soda and the arrowroot starch, coconut oil, shea butter, and then some essential oils, your vitamin E oil, and a drop of tea tree oil if you're trying to go for it. So that one really does come together pretty easily. A lot of these are like melt and go. Aside from the soap making, that's really just not it. If you're looking for easy, but the deodorant cream, it makes like a few ounces. It works really well for me and my boyfriend. So I would say that one is pretty good. Like I've bought so many natural deodorants and been so sad about it. So
And they're
yeah,
not
that
cheap.
one. Yeah, they're not cheap either. So yeah, that's a I would say cheapness is a big motivation for me, because, yeah, so many especially, like, fancy skincare stuff, like a serum is $75 and the main ingredient is, like, grapeseed oil, so which is a fine oil, but, yeah, if you're charging $80, like, you want something a little nicer,
Yeah, you can buy grapeseed oil for like 12 bucks. Yeah, a decent sized
Exactly,
jar.
yeah, so, yeah, those kind of things that I see a lot here in Toronto, inspire me further. So yeah, another one that I would say is yeah, like pretty easy to do is basically any kind of body butter or salve. If you have a whip, like a stand mixer with a whip, that would definitely be the easiest way to kind of get like a body butter going. And yeah, that really is down to exactly what your climate and room temperature is. So whipping like cocoa butter, shea butter, and then just a bit of a liquid oil. I usually do, depending on your oils or butters, like 2 parts of a solid one and then 1 part of a liquid. But it depends how, creamy they are and what their melting point is. So yeah, whipped body butters are really great gifts and then also a great way to kind of blend what you have together without, having to kind of pour and melt and all that.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Someone asked, how well does the homemade deodorant work?
Yeah, this one actually works pretty well, like, shockingly. Yeah, baffled, but, I find the baking soda works really well for, like, the antibacterial properties, and yeah, same thing with the I feel like the vitamin E oil might help a little bit, even though it's an antioxidant. I find that the one that I made did have a bit of a difference. And yeah, the starches kind of absorb the, I guess, like, liquid a little bit. And then because it's a cream deodorant, like I find it stays really well. And then tea tree oil is also something people add for a bit of like an antifungal property. I'm not huge on it just because it is a pretty like sensitizing ingredient. But yeah, so the baking soda is probably the main ingredient that a lot of people find is helpful. There's also, yeah, I would say, and like magnesium hydroxide is another one that you can buy. And that's another like powdered product that, especially if you're not using as much baking soda, I would recommend adding for just like the odor absorbing properties. And yeah, like I find that all together, especially, and yeah, the oils in it definitely help to like, soothe irritated skin because I find under my arms is super sensitive. So yeah, it kind of all comes together to usually help with that. But yeah, if you're having issues with it staying, like adding a little more essential oil, or a bit more baking soda, depending on how sensitive your skin is, should clear that up. But yeah, definitely natural deodorants have been so tragic. So yeah, I feel like those would probably be about how I would get it. But yeah, it does depend on what you have on hand for sure.
Now, I'm gonna hyper focus on the pine needles because I think that's
Yeah.
super cool. Is that something that you use in other products or just cleaning products?
I haven't infused pine needles otherwise, but I do infuse all kinds of stuff, like whatever I have kinda going, so, like, I would love to do, yeah. I think pine needles and some sort of, like even, like, a foot balm would be really nice, so, yeah, stuff like that is great because you don't have to pay $15 for an essential oil if you can just go get some cedar branches, and, like, infuse them into your oil. So yeah, infusing, you can either do the long way where you're, just pouring the oil over the plant matter and then letting it sit for like an absurd amount of time, like at least a few months and kind of shaking it around. Or yeah, you can very, very gently heat with the plant matter in it. I would almost do a double boiler for that just based on the amount of times that I've burned like calendula oil. And it smells terrible. So yeah, I would definitely yeah, infusing stuff in oil or alcohols in like witch hazel is a great one for that because it's not exactly like alcohol, but it does have that kind of ability to break down plant matter. So yeah, for toners, I'll definitely do like right now I have some witch hazel in rose petals just for fanciness. I don't think it's the most beneficial skincare ingredient when you're just putting the petals in. So I'm gonna add some extract too. But yeah, definitely I like infusing. Basically, yeah, like whatever you have on hand, whatever oil, whatever plant matter. If there's something you can't figure out that you're thinking about, pop it in the chat, and we'll try and find something for it. Definitely, yeah. I'm always trying to figure out how to use my coffee grinds more. I feel like that's something that's always there.
Yeah, definitely. I throw mine in the compost, but I mean, they are expensive, so it seems kind of like a
Mhm.
waste.
Yeah, they're pretty nice in scrubs, and yeah, I definitely like doing them in a bit of a scrub. Pretty abrasive for face or anything, but yeah, definitely to get into like knees and elbows. But yeah, the pine needles, I feel like the innermost ones, like those 5 or 6 there are usually what I grab, but it probably doesn't have to be that particular. So yeah, honestly, whatever you can dream up for infusing, like you can infuse your favorite teas, your stale ass spices, like whatever. They really do come through if you can let them steep a little in some heat.
Yeah, that's cool. I just
Mhm.
always try to figure out good ways to use things that I don't otherwise like. And I have a lot of
Yeah.
pine trees and I'm like, what am I like they're no use. They're not good for firewood. I don't need lumber
Mhm.
and I don't have the materials to like cut down for like timber. It's like what am I going to do with all these trees? But even if it's only a couple needles, it'd be something.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like yeah, infusing those into like a shea butter or something would make like a very nice, even yeah, pine into like a beard balm type thing. I like them for that. Or like a hair paste. Yeah, definitely. There's all those kind of ways that you can infuse things, and essential oils are easier if you don't have the time or space. But yeah, definitely way cheaper to do it yourself. Not as concentrated, but still a good time. And then yeah, I am gonna get into soap. Yeah, because if you do want to get into it, like I have a recipe for it. I've like you, I've only done it like once or twice because for me it's not totally worth it. And I find, yeah, like in my apartment, trying to find a place to work with lye is not it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, in the doc at the very, very bottom, there's a long instruction for working with lye soap because it does have to cure for 28 days. So it is a bit of a process, but yeah, if
You
you
got to
want to get into
dedicate some space to it.
yeah, for sure. So if you wanna, like, really get into this and, like, create it from the ground up, I would say that's a really fun project, and you end up with a lot of soap. So if you wanna make gifts, that's a great one, and you can always toss in scrubby kind of ingredients, like even beans if you want, like, very gentle massage, but you could do, like, teas or anything like that, especially whatever clays you have, that's always a really nice place to put some clay in for color as well. So yeah, I do have a recipe. If you have questions about it, you can add them, but it is pretty long. But yeah, the main thing you're doing is using the lye and the sodium hydroxide, or the which is that. And yeah, you're using the solid oils, liquid oils, and yeah, it does take a long time to put it together. So it's definitely pretty involved, but it is worth it if you want to get a lot of soap and are tired of paying a lot of money for Castile soap because it's kind of expensive. And then, yeah, for laundry soap, again, like Castile soap is something people use. I just buy like a laundry soda that's pre-mixed at my bulk store. So I don't personally do this one a lot. But yeah, to make your own laundry soap, it is just like, sorry, I'm gonna find it here. I believe it's yeah, like 1 part of you basically do like 3 tablespoons into, your wash, or I would say up to 3, but probably just 1 if you have, like a high efficiency machine. So it's just 2 parts borax, 2 parts washing soda, which is an irritant along with the borax, so definitely wear gloves. And then 1 part soap flakes to the 2 parts and 2 parts. So that one's a really easy one to just make if it's hard to buy in bulk where you live. And yeah, that one's so easy. And you can definitely add essential oils if you want to like get with it. But yeah, definitely for making laundry soap, that one's the easiest way. There's a few more that are like a little bit more involved if you want to get more into using like wood ash, that kind of way of very like homesteading, capital H. You can definitely get into that. But yeah, for today, I would say that one's your best bet and still really easy to get all those ingredients.
Yeah.
Mm.
Someday. Some
Yeah.
one of those long lists of like things you'd like to try doing at least once. Whether or not it's because we have
Mhm.
to is another story, but
Yeah,
be
it's
good
cool
to
to
know.
know. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot of ways to wash clothes. So yeah, but I would say for if you have access to just, like kind of normal basic ingredients, that one's really easy to do.
cool. So are there any ingredients that you like to work with or essential oils or whatever that are like, I guess, non-traditional?
Mm, I would say I do a lot more. I would say everything's pretty traditional, like, obviously, now compared to what, like, people 3 generations before had, like, they probably weren't getting mango seed butter, so stuff like that is cool just to be able to use, more global ingredients, which we use anyways, so even though I feel bad that they're not local, it is, like, a little bit better than, or at least I tell myself, than I guess, like, shipping one single jar of something over and over, like it is just the bulk product. Do I make any after shaving products? Yeah, I definitely do. Depending on where you're shaving and, like, how sensitive, I would do, like, a witch hazel toner if you want, like, a traditional kind of aftershave that's, like, almost the alcohol base. Witch hazel really depends, like, how strong it is when you get it, depending on how pure it is. Like, the Thayer's one that you see in the store obviously has a lot of water added, so, yeah, I would say for shaving, you definitely, like, if aloe is accessible to you, that's a great ingredient to add in. It's a little bit harder to mix in, but you can get it a bit thicker, and that works really well. But, yeah, any of those, like, soothing ingredients you have access to, for me personally, after I shave, like exfoliating is a really big thing, especially like under my arms, with like a almond scrubby kind of one, like a very gentle one. Exfoliating, yeah, after you shave is a really big, just generally skincare thing. And then, yeah, for a toner, if you want to go for a more like home alone type product, yeah, witch hazel is a great one. And then whatever soothing ingredients you have to add into that. So yeah, like if you've got a bit of, even a little bit of oil, I like to add to a toner just so it's not so drying, even if I'm adding a moisturizer afterwards. So in like 100 ml toner, I would maybe add like 10 ml oil, of whatever you've got that's like quick absorbing and light. So like an almond oil, not the greatest on the skin, but like whatever you have access to. And yeah, I can definitely get into where you would want to use like what oil in a bit. But yeah, aftershave is a nice product to make yourself because so many of them have irritants in them, that you're putting on your already beat up skin. So definitely, yeah, that's a nice one to make yourself. I also make my own shaving cream. I've done a couple, like one that's more of a whipped soap where you're like shaving soap flakes into an oil and then like whipping and blending that. But yeah, usually what I do is whatever oil I have that's kind of cheap and nice on the skin. So like I usually do just an apricot oil and then shave with that because it's the easiest thing. So there's a lot of with this, I would say there's whatever you want to do that's easier, and then there's the intense way. So it's whatever you've got the time and resources for. But yeah, just shaving with an oil is very easy.
So basically, there's, I guess you could say, like basic formulas of percentage of oils versus water versus,
Yes.
yeah,
So if you basically look up any ingredient, because like you probably will if you're, buying, if you're just not sure. I always do it anyways. So you'll basically Google like jojoba oil usage rate, that word again, and that'll really give you like a breakdown of the ingredient. And yeah, like how far you should, especially with the ones that are less carrier oils and more like where they have a dedicated effect. That's a really big one. But yeah, every oil has different properties. So you kind of just end up having to at least know about the ones that you're using. So yeah, you've got for the most part like your carrier oils, and then the oils that have like a concentrated effect. So like a rosehip seed oil versus a coconut or olive oil. And then within that, you have your oils that, are like more fatty and then have like are heavier on the skin, would take longer to absorb, all of those kind of things. So that's why like almond oil is a really nice nail oil for a lot of people because it absorbs so quickly and is pretty light. So yeah, it depends. Yeah. A lot of the butters generally are going to be like heavier, have a bit more greasiness. Any of the ones that are like solid state, like a cocoa butter, and then something like a mango butter, which has more of a coconut butter. It's a little bit more whipped, kind of softer. Those are kind of medium grade. And then that depends a lot, but generally your liquid oils are a little bit faster absorbing, a little bit lighter. Notwithstanding oils that are already heavy, like a hemp seed oil, I find doesn't, get in there too quickly. But yeah, so it's definitely a learning curve, when you start working with products, but as
Yeah, so
you Hmm?
I was gonna say, so if you're using, something that was slower to get into your body,
Mhm.
like, that would probably make more sense if you're trying to use it to apply some kind of, like, medicine through, like, a salve or something like that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, so, like, a rough skin balm where you're washing your hands a lot, like, you definitely again, the beeswax, like a shea butter, something that really, like, stays is really great to have, and then, yeah, the lighter oils are more like a nail oil or for your hair where you definitely don't wanna be as weighed down, which is why, like, argan and jojoba oils are pretty revered for hair. And yeah, I don't take the time to make my own conditioners, I definitely just do a hair oil, because, yeah, it can be done, but trying to replicate the texture of something that uses water, I find is pretty hard, so yeah, I don't use water for the preservative factor. But yeah, definitely for some things that aren't alcohol based, it's hard to get that kind of creamy texture that we like in the bottled products. But if you are craving that, it's really possible to, like whip it, add aloe gel, and really like get into making a bit more of a texture. But yeah, for me, I like just using the straight up oils.
Cool. Yeah, so when you say whip, you mean, like, literally like a KitchenAid mixing whip?
Yeah, like to whip, they're so much stiffer than, like icing or whatever. So I would say, yeah, definitely use a stand mixer. But they are just as effective if you're, melting it down and putting it into a jar. So if you don't have that, it's really not an issue. It's just like it's nice. It gives you that body shop experience. If people are interested, I can go a little bit more into like cosmetics. But if that's just not it, then that's okay too. Because again, mostly with that, you're infusing instead of for scent or properties, you're infusing your oils or base for color. So yeah, that's just a lot of what I do. I use like beet, that's a big one, and like watermelon extract and rose. Those are a lot of like peachy tones.
Now when you
And
say watermelon extract, you're saying peachy tone, so I'm assuming it's the fruit, but it would make sense to be the seed. So what are
I
you
bel I believe it's the fruit. I do just buy the watermelon extract like processed. So I believe like green tea extract, if anybody knows more, please jump in. But green tea extract is very similar to like the way that matcha is to green tea. Like it's just the powdered, concentrated version of the product. So I believe it's
oh,
similar to that.
I
Yeah,
guess that
but
would
yeah,
make
it's almost
sense.
like it looks kind of like Laffy Taffy in my packages. Like it's a light pink, but because it's like a sticky fruit material, it does compact into kind of like a taffy over time, even though it's like a powder.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
probably
that's
rehydrating slowly or something.
yeah, that one's definitely it has a little bit more of less of like a dry powder when you're touching it, and it's got like a little bit more of I don't wanna say meaty because that sounds like a sad vegan thing, but yeah, that one's pretty good. That one's in a lot of like, you'll see that in it's a supplement that people buy, but yeah, you definitely see that in a lot of, like, skincare masks that are pink, that's a big one. And it's really rich in like vitamin C and basically amino acids and like everything that watermelon is big on. So not all of that goes into your skin. It really depends. Same thing with vitamin C. Like you can't just put like an orange on your face. So yeah, like a lot of that will really you just have to be careful about what you're using, like and where you're getting your ingredients from because yeah, like some vitamin C straight up absorbic acid is not great for your skin because it's so photosensitive, but then also is not going to give you a lot of the benefits because your skin can't absorb it in that form. So yeah, definitely just once you're getting more into like serious skincare. That stuff is really where you want to be careful if you're working with like acids or anything like that. But basically, yeah, where you're mixing oils, it's like whatever you feel, whatever you're having fun with, whatever texture you want.
Cool.
Yeah. And then, yeah, basically, like whatever I have left over, whatever little bits of oils is what I put into my body scrubs. And I feel like that's a good way to just incorporate the waste from this process all around. And yeah, that's basically, I would say, most of the things that I'm making, for like day to day.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions or something want to get into, want to clarify, feel free to jump in.
Yeah. I mean, I think it makes sense now that you've like talked through it, and it doesn't seem like, I don't know. It's one of those things you go on like YouTube or whatever, and you try to
Mhm.
like watch people do it, and there's so many steps ahead of where you are that the description and the explanation don't ever make any sense because you have no framework to work from. And
Mhm.
now I feel like I kind of get the process and the way the ingredients relate to one another. Uh,
Yeah.
i- in a way that it's like, okay, now I understand why and how this works a little bit. And if I want to explore more on it, I have some place to start.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely there's such a range of what people have, like, made or done or, like, have access to, so I'm glad it's starting to make a bit more sense, because yeah, definitely, it's super intimidating because you have, like, science, skincare, formulating, and then just people who are, like, really afraid of chemicals, which is, understandable, but yeah, it's also hard to deal with at a certain point, because a lot of things are chemicals, so yeah, if you're avoiding, like, baking soda or vinegar, like, that's just really hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely it gets down into I would say, yeah, like, I wanted this to at least have what you would start buying because I feel like you see so many recipes that use 20 ingredients that are all not related at all.
Yeah, and you're like, "What am I gonna do with it's gonna cost me $250 to make this, like, soap once. What am I gonna
Yeah.
do with the rest of it?"
Yeah, so there is a beginner like ingredient list that I've included in kind of the amount starting that you don't need a lot of, like the vitamin E oil or glycerin for most things. And that'll really get you started making in like all your ingredients. And yeah, where to get these ingredients. I'm in Toronto, so I get all my stuff from Green and Frugal. They're a really great chain of like a small business and they do bulk ingredients, deposit jars, that kind of thing. I know New Directions Aromatics and, like, Rose Mountain Herbs are 2, like, American online businesses that people say the ingredients tend to be really high quality, so I've never ordered from them personally, but I do know that's where a lot of people go. And yeah, like the whatever your bulk store nearby will probably have a lot of the solid ingredients that you want. And then when you're getting more into plant extracts and stuff, that might be when you have to order online or get a little more specific. But most things are like food grade, so you can get them at like your grocery store.
So, like, if someone wanted to get into this, like, just like a basic, like, I wanna try a little bit of everything,
Yeah.
how much would you end up spending, like, doing, like, a simple budget, to, like, buy the basic ingredients?
Yeah. So for my base list, if you're talking like vitamin E, alcohol, and then, like, a couple oils, I would say you could get started for, like, 50 bucks, and that's Canadian, so probably a bit less wherever you are, and that's on the higher side, like, that would be you getting a couple oils, one that's, like, really high quality, and then assuming you have containers for this stuff already, but yeah, that would be like, you're ending up with a pretty good package of stuff for $50, and you could even start with way less than that, especially bulk stores, like, you don't have to buy, like, 2 kilos of which is nice. And then, yeah, the infusing I think is a good way to save money as well. So you're not buying like 3 essential oils every time you wanna make something. So that's a great way to, yeah, have like local products. I'm not even as into the scented products as I was, which is shocking because I used to be like into Bath and Body Works. But yeah,
That's
so
where it starts.
right? Yeah, and now we're here. So I feel like, yeah, you don't even have to have the essential oils to start because those tend to be pretty expensive for getting like 10 milliliters of an ingredient. So yeah, I would say start off with whatever base oil, a butter, your vitamin E, glycerin if you know, like, wanna get into more soaps and stuff. And yeah, like, that's probably a really good starting point, and then, yeah, from there, like, face masks, cosmetics, all that stuff is very, very easy, once you're basically getting into the, like, melt and go.
Cool.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so I think I'm out of questions. I'm not sure if anyone else has any or others. If you do, you're gonna have to drop them sooner than later. So Sarah, this has been fantastic. I've learned a lot. I appreciate your time. I'll ask. I think I know the answer, but I'll ask anyway. Do you sell any of these products?
I don't right now, make your own merch. But yeah, I don't because I'm always telling my friends, like, "You can do this. It's so much easier." And yeah,
Right.
the marketing is very a lot. So yeah, making it yourself is so much easier, so much cheaper. I'm here for it.
Awesome. So if you guys want to support Sarah and throw her a couple bucks, you can shoot a couple dollars over to our Venmo, and I will forward that along. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Can pass it along now that you know how to make all your own soaps for like no money. It's really
Yeah.
important and good. Um, yeah. Any other last thoughts?
Sweet. Just thank you so much for everybody who tuned in. Thanks for having me. Definitely on the doc. Feel free to add stuff. My Instagram is there. So even if you're wondering something, feel free to DM me. It's all good. Yeah, happy making stuff. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
Nope. So thank you guys. This was another Prepper Skillshare episode. It was great to learn a bunch of stuff that I didn't know before. Next, we're going to be talking with the Conquest of Thread, which is going to be really cool. And we're going to make a tool thing to carry your tools or to carry knives or something like that. So that's going to be really cool. There's a materials list. So if you want to make stuff right along with us, I don't have a sewing machine, but I might try to steal one for the afternoon. We'll see what we can do. So please join us, and that'll be next. What's today? Friday. So I think it's Monday or Tuesday. Tuesday. Let's go with Tuesday. So we'll see you for that. Sunday, we have a new episode coming out on foodways of Indigenous Ireland. If you haven't listened to it on our Patreon, if you want to support this project, you can also hit us up on Patreon/Poor Paul's Almanac. Gives you early access to our episodes. If you do not listen to our podcast, you probably should, because if this stuff is of interest to you, I promise you will be interested in the podcast. And if you are in our patrons, thank you so much. And if you want to join them, it's $2 a month. It's like 7 cents a day. Go give us a little bit of support. Help us pay the bills to do all this stuff and for our time and all that great stuff. I think that's just about it. So, till next time, this is the Poor Proles Almanac.